Tonight, you'll hear about the most remarkable financial and image resurrection in pop culture history and get a rare look at what Michael Jackson left behind.
They called it a rumor, dismissed it as fiction. But hidden behind the locked doors of Neverland's garage was something far more unsettling. Not music or memorabilia, but long-buried secrets no one was ever meant to uncover. Now that they've surfaced, everything we thought we knew about Michael Jackson is being questioned. His legacy, once untouchable, may never be seen the same way again. The truth was hidden in plain sight, and now it's rewriting the story. Behind those rusted doors lay more than just dust-covered boxes. Whispers speak of handwritten notes, gold-plated artifacts, and recordings no one's ever heard. But the deeper they looked, the stranger it got. Unmarked cases, hidden compartments, and objects with no explanation. This wasn't just storage, it was a message or a warning, or both. The Neverland Ranch legacy. After Michael Jackson's meteoric rise in the 1980s, a time when he dominated the global music scene with record-breaking albums like Thriller and Bad, he made a purchase that would become just as iconic as his moonwalk. In March 1988, Jackson purchased a 2,700-acre estate in the hills of Los Olivos, California, for $19.5 million. He named it Neverland Ranch, inspired by the mythical island in Peter Pan, a place where children never grow up. But for Jackson, Neverland was more than a home. It was a carefully designed escape from reality, built on imagination, whimsy, and a longing for the childhood he believed he never truly experienced. The ranch was unlike anything the world had seen before, and a perfect description of it is a private Disneyland tucked away in the countryside. In it, he built full-sized amusement park rides, including a Ferris wheel, bumper cars, a carousel, and even a small-scale roller coaster. He installed a movie theater that could seat 50 people at once and also included a private box where he could enjoy films in peace. There was also a working train that moved through the vast property, winding past carefully groomed gardens, lakes, and open fields. Adding to all of this was a zoo filled with exotic animals such as giraffes, elephants, llamas, tigers, and more. At the heart of it all stood his main residence, styled like a storybook mansion with elegant woodwork, ornate chandeliers, and rooms filled with art, collectibles, and curiosities from all over the world. For Jackson, Neverland was a symbol. It was where he could reconnect with a sense of innocence, removed from the pressures of fame and the chaos of the outside world. In interviews, he often referred to it as his personal paradise, because it was a place where joy and creativity lived freely, untouched by judgment or responsibility. He would frequently invite underprivileged children or those suffering from illness to spend the day there, hoping to share a bit of happiness with those who needed it most. But as the years passed, Neverland's image began to shift. In the early 1990s, Jackson's life started becoming entangled with legal battles and intense media scrutiny. Allegations of inappropriate behavior began to surface, and many of them were tied directly to Neverland itself. The same place that once represented escape and joy was now being dissected in courtrooms and in tabloids. Every corner of the ranch, from its rides to its rooms and its private spaces, suddenly became points of speculation and public interest. By the time the 2005 trial came around, Neverland was no longer the sanctuary it once was, and though Jackson was acquitted of all charges, the experience took a heavy toll on him. After the trial, Jackson reportedly never spent another night at Neverland. The estate, once filled with music, laughter, and the buzz of carnival rides, grew quiet. Maintenance was reduced, the animals were relocated, and the Ferris wheel stopped turning. The dream world Jackson had carefully built slowly faded into memory. When Michael Jackson passed away suddenly in 2009, fans around the world mourned, tributes poured in, and his music shot back to the top of the charts. But while the world remembered him, Neverland remained eerily quiet. In the years leading up to his death, part of the estate had already been transferred to a real estate investment firm. Now, with Jackson gone, the property sat abandoned. The grand gates were closed, the lawns were overgrown, and the once vibrant rides were left to rust. Over time, Neverland became a shadow of what it once was. In 2015, the ranch was quietly listed under a new name called Sycamore Valley Ranch and listed for $100 million. The name Neverland was removed in an effort to make the property more appealing to potential buyers. Still, it sat on the market for years, even as the price dropped to $67 million, then to $31 million. Interested buyers came and went, but only a few were willing to take on a place so closely tied to controversy and emotion. Eventually, in 2020, the ranch was finally sold to billionaire Ron Burkle, who was a friend of the Jackson family, for $22 million, far below the original $100 million asking price. Burkle's plans for the estate were never clearly stated, though some speculated he purchased it either as a land investment or to shield it from further public attention. Despite its new owner and new name, to the world, it would always be Neverland. The legacy of the ranch has continued to live on, not just as a piece of real estate, but as a symbol of everything Michael Jackson represented. Even after its sale, stories and rumors surrounding Neverland never fully stopped. Over the years, rumors of hidden rooms, secret passageways, and sealed storage areas at Neverland began to surface. One myth in particular that continued to spark curiosity was the story of the locked garage. According to several unconfirmed sources, Jackson had a private garage on the property that few staff ever entered, and that was strictly off-limits to visitors. What it contained has remained a mystery. As time has passed, the legend of the locked garage has only grown as former employees have made vague references to it in interviews. Some claim it held items Jackson didn't want anyone to see, while others say it was untouched for years and that its contents were never cataloged or moved, even after his death. Now, more than a decade later, the garage has reportedly been opened, and what was found inside is where things take a turn. Was it simply a storage room for old tour gear, a collection of rare memorabilia, or something more personal? It's time we looked inside. The locked garage myth. For years, whispers of a sealed garage at Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch have swirled around the internet like smoke from a long extinguished fire. According to the lore, there was one garage on the 2,700-acre property that remained completely untouched. Some say it was locked even to Jackson's closest staff, and others go as far as to claim that not even family members were allowed to step inside. That specific garage door, according to the story, was never opened during the raids, never photographed by journalists, and never acknowledged in any official reports. It was, in the minds of some fans and skeptics alike, the last unopened door in the Jackson universe. The legend of the locked garage first gained traction online around the mid-2010s, years after Jackson's death, and it began in fan forums before spreading across Reddit threads, and eventually found a second life on YouTube. Content creators looking for mystery and intrigue began uploading videos with bold titles like, "They finally opened Michael Jackson's secret garage," or "What Michael Jackson hid in Neverland's most mysterious room." These videos racked up millions of views, feeding a global audience hungry for more details about the king of pop's secretive life. Many claimed that the garage had been custom-built by Jackson himself, complete with a biometric lock, underground storage, and state-of-the-art security systems that were ahead of their time, and by 2024, the myth had taken on a life of its own. Several YouTubers, citing unnamed sources, claimed that the garage was finally opened that year, with one video in particular, which has since been reposted across platforms, declaring that astonishing artifacts were uncovered inside. Supposedly, the items included handwritten letters, unreleased music, stage outfits, personal journals, and even messages Jackson left behind for his children. One theory even suggested there was a vault within the garage containing tapes Jackson recorded for private use, audio diaries chronicling his thoughts in the final years of his life. The details were enticing, and the views proved that interest in Jackson's story had never really faded. Some videos were highly produced, with ominous music and reenactments giving the illusion of credibility, while others leaned heavily on speculation, offering no real proof, but speaking confidently about inside sources and confirmed leaks. To someone watching without context, the claims could sound convincing because they hinted at secrets, closure, and a final glimpse into the mind of one of the most enigmatic figures in pop culture. But here's where reality steps in. Despite how widespread the garage story has become online, no credible news outlet has ever confirmed that such a garage raid took place, let alone in 2024. Major publications, from the New York Times to BBC to Rolling Stone, have not reported on any secret storage discovery at Neverland. Not one single legal document, court record, or police statement has supported the claims that a sealed garage was opened and yielded hidden contents of major significance. In fact, when you look back at the official investigations that surrounded Michael Jackson during his lifetime, the idea that something could have remained hidden seems unlikely, because between 1993 and 2005, Jackson's home, Neverland included, was subjected to intense scrutiny. There were two major investigations, both involving law enforcement officials conducting searches of the ranch. The 2003 search alone involved more than 70 sheriff's deputies combing through Jackson's property for over 12 hours. They went room by room, gathering everything from hard drives to private notes, so nothing was left to chance. If indeed there had been a locked garage hiding controversial or groundbreaking material, it likely would have been uncovered during those raids, because even the FBI got involved. After Jackson's death, his full FBI file was released to the public, and it was over 300 pages long. It included reports, interviews, and documents related to all prior allegations. However, in all those pages, there was no mention of a sealed garage or a hidden chamber. In 2009, the FBI even went on record saying that they found no evidence of criminal conduct by Jackson. This was not speculation. It was on file and available for anyone to read still. The myth remains. It keeps resurfacing, often shared by people who genuinely believe there's more to the story, or by creators chasing the next viral hit, and it's not hard to understand why. Michael Jackson was a deeply private person, and his life was filled with unusual habits, creative quirks, and a lifestyle that most people will never fully understand. He built secret rooms in his homes not to hide anything sinister, but to feel safe. He collected everything from toys to antique furniture, and often kept memorabilia stored away in vaults. So when people hear about a locked garage, it doesn't sound that far-fetched, because it fits the image they've built of Jackson over the years, the brilliant but reclusive star who always had another secret waiting to be uncovered. But here's the thing, the locked garage story, as compelling as it is, lives mostly in the space between fact and fantasy. It's internet lore, the kind of thing that thrives in the absence of proof. Like many stories about famous figures who've passed away, it is shaped less by evidence and more by imagination. The myth survives not because it's been verified, but because people want to believe there's still something we don't know. That maybe, just maybe, Michael Jackson left behind one last message, one last performance, or one last clue about who he truly was. At its core, the Garage story reflects something very real about Jackson's legacy, that is his fiercely guarded privacy. Even in life, he was impossible to fully understand. Surrounded by security, legal teams, managers, and layers of public persona, he often kept his true self hidden. This sense of mystery didn't end when he died. If anything, it deepened, because once someone is gone, there's no way to ask follow-up questions or clarify the rumors. All that's left are the stories people tell, and how those stories evolve over time. So while the idea of a locked garage being opened in 2024 is interesting, even exciting, it's important to step back and see it for what it likely is. A reflection of our ongoing fascination with a man who kept much of his life behind closed doors. And maybe that's why stories like this continue to spread. They offer a sense of closeness to someone who always felt a little bit out of reach. In the end, whether or not that garage exists, and whether or not it's ever opened, probably doesn't change much about what we already know. Michael Jackson was a musical genius, a pop icon, and a deeply complex person who lived large and left behind a legacy filled with both brilliance and controversy. The garage myth doesn't reveal new facts, but it does show us how powerful storytelling can be even in the absence of proof. Even as the dust settles on that myth, another curiosity is beginning to rise, one that has little to do with the ranch itself and everything to do with what was left behind inside the vehicles Jackson once drove. Could the truth be hiding in plain sight? If the locked garage really existed, what was inside? Old legends, lost treasures, or maybe something with wheels? Let's take a closer look. Michael Jackson's secret fleet, inside the king of pop's garage. It might come as a surprise to some, but Michael Jackson wasn't only passionate about music, dance, or elaborate stage design. He also had a real love for cars, especially ones that looked like they were pulled straight from a movie set or royal motorcade. Over the years, Jackson built a one-of-a-kind vehicle collection that was as extravagant and mysterious as the man himself. From gold-plated limousines to custom tour buses, each vehicle told a story, and if the rumors about a sealed garage at Neverland Ranch were ever proven true, there's every reason to believe some of these incredible machines might be sitting in there gathering dust. One of the most talked-about vehicles in Jackson's collection was his 1999 Rolls-Royce Silver Seraph Stretch Limousine. But this wasn't your typical Rolls-Royce, even by luxury standards. This particular model was fully customized to reflect Jackson's love for ornate European design, especially the lavish interiors of the Palace of Versailles in France. The inside of the limo was trimmed in 24-karat gold plating, with hand-stitched leather seats, deep velvet accents, and polished wood paneling. Every detail, from the ceiling mirrors to the embroidery, had Jackson's taste written all over it. Even the dashboard, usually sleek and subtle in a standard Rolls, was transformed into something more theatrical. This limousine was so unique that it was listed in a high-profile auction catalog back in 2009, shortly after Jackson's passing. It caught the attention of collectors and fans alike, not just for its looks, but for its connection to a pop culture icon. However, despite the buzz, it never sold. Whether it was pulled before the sale, kept by the estate, or held back for personal reasons has never been made clear, but its exact whereabouts remain unknown to this day, which only adds to the curiosity surrounding what Jackson might have kept hidden, and that was far from the only limousine he owned. Jackson seemed to have a particular fondness for Rolls-Royces because another notable piece in his fleet was a 1990 Rolls-Royce Silver Spur 2 limousine. This one wasn't as flashy as the Versailles-inspired Seraph, but it still carried his signature style. The Silver Spur 2 had a long wheelbase, giving it the kind of spacious interior Jackson preferred, especially for privacy during travel. It was finished in a sleek black paint job with a custom interior built to his specifications, so whether he used it for business meetings, events, or simply quiet drives around Los Angeles, it added another layer to his reputation for traveling like royalty. But Jackson's automotive taste wasn't limited to just limos. He also had vehicles built for life on the road, and a prime example is his 1997 Neoplan tour bus. Unlike the standard tour buses you see parked outside concert venues, Jackson's was something else entirely. The bus was designed as a rolling luxury suite, complete with lounge areas, audio-visual systems, and even gold-plated fixtures. The toilet and sink inside were both plated in gold, a choice that perfectly matched Jackson's well-documented love for the extravagant. This wasn't just transportation, it was an extension of his lifestyle, mobile opulence, tailored to meet the needs of a global superstar constantly on tour. In fact, Jackson's approach to cars was similar to how he approached his music and performances. It was never about settling for what was standard, because he liked to customize everything and make it his own. Many of the vehicles in his collection were tailored to fit his very specific aesthetic, blending luxury with a childlike sense of wonder. He reportedly owned several other cars as well, including Bentleys, Cadillacs, and even fire trucks and go-karts for the kids who visited Neverland. His garages were not filled with ordinary cars. They were filled with conversation starters and rolling works of art. Because of Jackson's preference for privacy and the size of Neverland Ranch, it's never been entirely clear where all these vehicles were kept. Some were displayed on the property, while others were believed to be housed in storage buildings or garages scattered throughout the estate. This is where the myth of the locked garage gets interesting, because if such a place really existed, one that even staff weren't allowed to enter, it raises the question of what might be inside. Given how many of Jackson's vehicles were unique and valuable, it's not far-fetched to think a few might have been stored away to be protected from time, and the missing Rolls-Royce Silver Seraph could be there, same with the gold-trimmed Neoplan bus. These are the kinds of possibilities that fueled the speculation, and even decades later, Jackson's estate still holds unanswered questions, and his fans are always looking for the next detail, the next surprise. What makes the garage story even more intriguing is what else might be hidden beyond the vehicles. Jackson was known to archive nearly everything from letters, stage props, costumes, notebooks, and even unreleased music. In multiple interviews over the years, producers and collaborators hinted that Jackson recorded hundreds of songs that never saw the light of day. Some were rough demos, while others were nearly complete tracks that simply didn't make it onto his albums. So, if indeed a garage at Neverland was truly sealed off, who's to say what might still be in there? The idea that these things could still be waiting to be discovered is part of what keeps Jackson's mystique alive. His life was built around careful control of image and access. He shared what he wanted to share and kept the rest close. So whether this garage is real or simply another chapter in the growing mythology around Neverland, it taps into something very real, which is people's belief that Jackson always held something back. Even after all this time, there's still a feeling that not everything has been revealed. His impact on music, fashion, and global culture is already cemented, but the sense that more could be discovered keeps his legacy dynamic. Stories like the garage and the missing vehicles feel like pieces of a larger puzzle, one that may never be fully completed. So, if that garage does exist, it wouldn't be surprising to find more than a few of Jackson's custom vehicles locked behind its doors. But maybe there's something else in there too, Something we didn't expect, and something no one outside of his closest circle has ever seen or heard. If these legendary vehicles were real, what else could be hiding in the shadows? Costumes? Demos? Let's open the door to the treasure trove fans can't stop talking about. Treasure trove speculation. If the stories were true, what could possibly be inside that mysterious locked garage at Neverland? It's a question fans and internet sleuths have asked for years, and the theories never stop. Some are based on Jackson's known habits, while others are pure speculation. Maybe it holds stacks of unreleased music demos hidden away for decades. Imagine discovering a brand new Michael Jackson song today, recorded in his prime. Others believe the garage could contain handwritten journals filled with lyrics, personal reflections, or private letters. Some picture racks of stage costumes from iconic performances or rare collectibles Jackson never put on public display. And then there are the simpler guesses like old furniture, tour props, or equipment. But even those would be meaningful, simply because they once belonged to Michael Jackson. Speculation like this isn't without reason, because Jackson was known to be a collector, a perfectionist, and a deeply private person. He often held on to things for emotional reasons or simply because he wanted full control over what was seen and what remained behind the curtain. So when people hear rumors about a locked garage, especially one that no staff or family were allowed to enter, it sparks curiosity. What could he have wanted to keep so private, and why? This curiosity only grew after a real event in late 2024 added fuel to the fire. A longtime collector, though not affiliated with the Jackson estate, reportedly discovered a storage unit located a few miles from Neverland. Inside were 12 cassette tapes containing unreleased Michael Jackson songs recorded between 1989 and 1991. These weren't full studio masters, but demos and industry insiders verified some of the tracks as authentic, though they haven't been officially released. That discovery sent shockwaves through fan communities because it proved that there really were unheard Jackson recordings out there, and if something like that could sit unnoticed in a random storage unit for decades, who's to say what might still be hiding in a sealed garage on Jackson's actual property? It's moments like this that keep people invested in these stories because they blur the line between possibility and fantasy. But it also raises an important point. When we talk about things like the locked garage, are we chasing real clues or simply buying into clickbait? Because while it's fun to wonder what might be hidden away, it's also worth asking what we actually know, and when we look at what's documented, the picture changes. First, there has never been a verified report by any credible source that confirms the existence of a garage at Neverland sealed off in the way some stories describe. Most of the rumors trace back to anonymous forum posts, recycled YouTube claims, or hearsay from secondhand sources. They are all light in detail and heavy on mystery, which makes them great for storytelling, but not strong evidence. Second, Jackson's properties were heavily searched between 1993 and 2005 by multiple law enforcement agencies, including the FBI. Officers cataloged items room by room, and search warrants covered electronics, documents, personal belongings, even storage areas. So if there had been a sealed-off garage containing something unusual or worse, it would likely have been noted somewhere in the official record. Third, after Jackson's death, the estate went through a formal process of valuation. This meant inventory teams combed through his assets to determine what existed, what was valuable, and what needed to be secured. Appraisers, estate lawyers, and real estate professionals all had access to the property, but no reports from that period mention a dramatic discovery inside a forgotten garage. If anything, the findings were pretty ordinary, from memorabilia to furniture, clothing, and personal items. Some things were emotional, others were historically interesting, but nothing on the level of a long-lost music vault or secret treasure room. This is where the line between fact and internet fiction becomes clear. The locked garage story continues to live online, not because of what was found, but because of what could be found. It's a myth built on absence, and myths like this thrive in a digital age where views, shares, and speculation often matter more than verified information. Still, the appeal is understandable. Michael Jackson wasn't just a celebrity. He was a cultural figure so wrapped in mystery that people naturally wonder what they never got to see. His need for privacy and his global fame make him a perfect subject for these kinds of stories. The locked garage becomes a symbol of unanswered questions, of what still might be waiting in the shadows. But the facts, as they stand, tell a more grounded story. What was found in Jackson's homes, according to police and estate records, mostly involved items we already knew he had: stage outfits, tour props, art collections, fan letters, and personal effects. In some cases, authorities found materials unrelated to any crime but considered unusual or eccentric. There were no confirmed discoveries of secret rooms with unreleased albums or vaults filled with classified documents. If anything, the mystery turned out to be more mundane than magical. This doesn't mean Jackson didn't have secrets, because most people do. But the locked garage, as far as anyone can prove, remains exactly what it sounds like: a story. It's an idea passed around in videos and forums, built on real details about Jackson's love for collecting and his desire for control, but not supported by any hard evidence. Still, stories like this tend to stick around as they represent a kind of hope for fans, a belief that something new might still surface. Maybe an unheard song, or a diary entry that sheds light on what Jackson really thought in his quietest moments. Maybe something as simple as a piece of furniture from Neverland that still smells like the cologne he wore. This is why the myth hasn't disappeared, because it is not about proving something anymore. It's about keeping part of Jackson's story alive. As long as there's even a sliver of possibility, people will keep looking, keep asking, and keep hoping. Not everything has to be a hidden treasure. Sometimes the real story lies in what's already known, and yet the possibility, however faint, lingers. So what do you think might be hidden behind Neverland's most talked about garage? Could there really be unreleased music, lost memorabilia? Or is it all just speculation? Do you believe a treasure trove exists, or have the myths gone too far? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. If you enjoyed this video, click on the next video on your screen.